All right, welcome everybody to the Agent's Pulse. My name is Dominic Ervolina, and I'm here with the amazing Carmen Hornberger. How are you this week, Miss Carmen?
It's been a busy week, Dominic. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been busy here too. Like I was saying right before we started, busy is what we want to be, right?
Absolutely.
Busy is good in our business.
Always.
The busier we are, the better. So this
Yeah.
week we are going to talk. This is really part one of a two-part series that we're going to do all about selling IULs. Last week we talked about value selling over price
hmm
selling for IULs. But
hmm
this week we're going to really talk about why agents aren't selling more IULs. And next week we're going to talk about macho and how to prospect for IULs and make sure that the people you're talking to about IULs are the right people, because IULs aren't right for everyone.
Right.
They're a very specific product,
hmm
and we want to make sure that we're not trying to put somebody into a product that's not right for them.
Absolutely.
Um,
Uh-huh.
but today we're going to start with just why more agents don't sell IULs. And so the first question I have for you, Miss Hornberger, is why do you think agents are intimidated by IULs, by selling IULs?
Okay, I'm a rattle off a few things, okay?
Okay.
Um it's a few. So the first thing is that when an agent starts off in this business, they are trained on typically final expense and mortgage protection.
Right.
That's just an industry standard. um a lot of agents, they start off buying leads, and that's pretty much the direction that they go. It's like they don't, when they get their license, they just don't have that industry knowledge, but it's because of something else. This is the second reason, is because at the carrier level, the way that they explain the IUL at the carrier level, it's like it's only designed for like a carrier to do the illustration because they make it so hard and so complicated.
Mm.
So an agent, by the time they get a hold of an illustration or call sales and marketing for, a brief walkthrough, they've gotten so discombobulated with terms and, technical things that it just kind of, goes right over their head.
Right.
Let me sum this up. I think the main reason is because that with the IUL, it's such a monster that the typical IMO just doesn't have a training program set up for that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you try to call the carrier to get help at the carrier level, they explain this thing like Harvard, right? And then a plus one, it's like they don't know how to dumb it. They don't know how to dumb the whole process down from
Right.
the qualification to the illustration, and it just becomes too much of a monster for the agent, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm getting. Okay. There we go. Sorry, I was getting an echo there for a second.
Well,
Yeah, and I think let's break down what is IUL real quick, right? Indexed Universal Life.
index, you right.
Excuse me. So it's a whole life policy. It lasts for the rest of your life,
hmm
but it's indexed against the market. So it has a portion of the premium that's paid in, whether it's monthly, annually, quarterly, goes into an account which can grow based upon the stock market growing.
hmm
Much more complicated than that, but that's the very, very simple version of what an IUL is.
hmm
And I think you raise a lot of great points. The biggest reason is training. I was in the business
Yeah.
probably a year and a half before anyone explained to me what an IUL was.
That's because the person that probably brought you in the business had very little experience
Oh, sure.
in index products, and that's just the norm.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Right. And it wasn't by the person that brought me in. It was a completely different team. It was people that, I'd come into contact with, just being an agent, being just associating on calls and that sort of thing.
Right.
And they're the ones who actually explained it to me. And what I realized was there were a bunch of people that I had gotten products for before that would have been great fits for an IUL. And so at that point, I went back and called those people and said, hey, I have an idea. Would you like to sit down? And that's how I sold my first IULs, was reselling my own clients and kind of just redoing what they had. But I think there's also this feeling of intimidation among the people that are in the business, that they don't know how to explain it.
Exactly.
They don't know, they don't train on it because they don't even know, they don't know where to start themselves.
No. And it's very similar to, I mean, this isn't a annuity call, right? But just like annuities, right? I mean, the typical agent that I talk to that's been in the business for 5 years or more has not sold an annuity.
Right. Right. And, they're not, in my state and in a lot of states, there's an additional certification you have to get in order to sell an annuity. A carrier will say, hey, there's this extra certification. It's not expensive. I think I paid $15 or something to go to the class. But there isn't that for IULs. And
it's just the continuing ed, it's just a 4-hour continuing ed for the annuity. There's really no special continuing ed for the like for the IUL. But like I said, unfortunately, and that's why we're talking about it today. That's what makes our firm and our company and but more so our training program. That's what makes it so incredible.
Right. Because for those who don't know, you hold a training on IULs every Tuesday. I think I've gone to all of them since we've started working together. But it's been very comprehensive. And even me, somebody who sold IULs before meeting you, I've learned a lot from it. What prompted originally you to start doing that training? Well,
I totally flipped my model. So when I came over here to Experior, obviously I joined, one of my good friends over here, and he had already built the platform. So my company, Benefits to Go, just joined, just joined in to a platform that was already successful.
Right.
So this IUL and annuity training platform that I joined into had already generated over 640,000 in annual IUL premium. So I just had to just get my bearings together and just get my clientele together and just basically jump in. I mean, and I don't want to say that I had not, like before I joined over here, I had not sold an IUL, because I did. But but to answer your question, the reason why I'm doing the training is because what you and I are doing right now in the industry is like we're flipping it.
Yeah.
So we're bringing agents in with no experience or 12 years of experience.
Right.
And we're making them 6-figure earners within 6 months to a year because of the IUL and annuity program.
Sure.
And so when agents come in and they look at our model, they're just like, why haven't I done this? I've been licensed since 2015. Why haven't I done this before? Right. And they're just like, Carmen, and I'm just like, you know what? Welcome to Benefits to Go and the Experior platform.
Yeah. And that's a really great point. Like I said, when I first discovered IULs, what they were and how they worked, I went back to some of my old clients and set them up. Because an IUL, one of my favorite things to do with an IUL is mortgage protection. Because
I was just about to ask you a question, but go ahead with your train of thought with mortgage protection.
Sure. So most mortgages in the US are about 30 years. I know Canada is very different, but in the US, mortgages typically are 30 years, and there's caveats to that.
Yep.
So what you can do with an IUL is you can say, hey, you're going to pay into this IUL for the next 30 years, right? We're going to make sure that mortgage is covered with this death benefit that covers most of it. And then once the mortgage is satisfied, or you're close to getting the mortgage satisfied, you can take a loan from what you've paid in, take a loan from yourself, pay off the rest of the mortgage, and you can own your house before that mortgage is paid off. And then you can stop paying into the IUL, still have the IUL in place to provide income for yourself in retirement. That's one of the ways that you can use an IUL.
You know what? I never even looked at the IUL for excuse me, for principal protection.
Right.
For permanent protection garnered with the the mortgage protection sale. I never looked at it like that. IUL coupled with mortgage protection.
Sure.
But see, like I said, if you don't get exposed to these, different little nuances and different little ways to sell the IUL, it just becomes something that you just become more and more fearful of.
Right.
But what I wanted to ask you is, because you had wrote a couple of IULs before you joined me.
Sure.
Did you have a training program in your old IMO exclusively for IULs, like the way we're doing it over here?
So the short answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it was created after I started doing IULs. Now at that IMO, there's a very intense, specific IUL training. It's very, very good.
Okay.
But not when I did that. It was kind of created because there were people at the IMO that were doing it. And the company at large said, well, maybe we should be doing more of these. So another thing that we should explain is when you compare the IUL versus traditional life insurance, as far as our commissions go, which we do care about as agents, the commissions are paid differently.
Yes.
But typically with IULs, they're a little bit higher dollar for dollar. Not always, but typically. Now, there's different ways you can structure them. There's option A and option B, and explode, and people could come at me for saying that. But typically, dollar for dollar, if you're doing it level and all that good stuff, typically your commissions are a little bit higher with an IUL.
Right. Typically. And you know why? Because people are paying more for coverage.
Right. Because they're paying more. Because
they're paying more for annual premium.
Right. And that's the thing. Your commissions are higher.
Right. Exactly.
Because the client is paying more, which is why last week's episode was so important, because you have to sell it on value. You can't sell it on price.
The value. I was just about to say, you're right, my friend.
Yes. And
with that word again.
And that was the hardest thing for me, because, the sales that I'd done before I started in insurance were cell phone sales, other kind of tech sales where I sold laptops and that sort of thing. I worked for Time Warner Cable, all of these things where it was price. Like, how do we get your price lower? How do we get your price lower? If we get your price as low as possible, I can convince you to buy it.
Right.
And you cannot successfully sell IULs that way because they're more expensive. And the person, the client can just stop paying anytime they want. They don't have to keep it. So if they don't truly believe in it and it's not right for them, they're just going to get rid of it.
Totally. And that's why in the training program, what we focus on, I don't want to say what we focus on most, but what we kind of focus on is, not only the prospecting, but disqualifying a person from the coverage.
Right.
We start off by saying, just to level set and to let the client feel, off the hook a little bit, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, it's no sweat, because 70% of the people that we even, that even inquire about this product, they can't even get it anyway for whatever reason.
Right.
For financial reasons, too many bankruptcies, or just because of their health. So in the training program, we totally level set the tone, because this isn't, this is like the Lamborghini product of insurance. That's what I like to call it.
It is. It really is.
When you're selling a Lamborghini product, right? When you go into the dealership, the person that's selling you the Lamborghini, they probably don't even own one.
Of course not. No, they do not.
Right. So we have to, as agents, number one, we have to have a particular stance, professional stance when we're selling the IUL. Right. Because we have to take this very, very seriously, right? I mean, we got people paying us $500-$600 a month for life insurance. Yeah. Right? So we have to make sure that, we're selling it correctly, and, going through our due diligence. And it's just a different type of product, but at least we simplify it every Tuesday. We do. And 9:30, what's that? 9:30 Central to 11?
9:30 Central to 11 on Tuesdays. You know where I'm going to be.
Yep. I gotta pump pump us up,
You
give a
do,
shout
you
out.
do. And that's why one of the things that you told me you like to say to people when you want to talk about IULs, I really love, is you focus a lot on the retirement. Hey, what if I could add an additional, how is it you say it?
What if I can add a additional $2,000 to $10,000 per month to your bottom line in your retirement in all tax-free income? How would that look for you? How would you feel about that?
That's powerful.
Yeah.
And then you get into, also there's a death benefit. Also, you can take loans against it and not pay yourself back if you want. You can use it to pay off, student debt, that sort of thing. Right.
That's the last part. That's because in the training program, we don't even associate the death benefit as a death benefit. We don't even talk about that in that way. We explain the death benefit in a totally different way.
Yeah. I remember one of the first IULs I ever sold, it was for about $170 a month, maybe $174. And this just came out of my mouth. I was talking with the client, and he said, well, I'm not really sure, that I can afford $170 a month. And we'd gone through his finances. He could, he didn't want to, right? Yeah. And I said, well, client, I almost said his name. Instead of going out for steak dinners all the time, just pretend you bought yourself a steak dinner when you're 70. And that's what changed his perspective was this money, you're not sending this money to some company to never see it again.
Right, exactly.
You're setting aside this money so that you still have it when you retire.
Exactly.
And when you show that perspective to people, it really
it changes it. And then obviously, right, when you show them exactly how much they're going to owe the IRS from all the years that they've deferred taxes,
right,
they have a different perspective too.
Absolutely. Yeah. When they find out that they've got 36%, 40% of taxes coming in retirement from their 401k, they're like, wait, I've got to pay what?
Do you know how many people, do you know what was astonishing to me in the training program is that how many agents gave us feedback or gave me feedback that their clients didn't know that they still have to pay taxes on withdrawals in their 401k, even if they are over 59 and a half.
Right. Totally. And because it's not explained to them, because they go to work on the first day and like, okay, here's your 401k, sign up for it. And they sign on the dotted line, and no one explains anything to them.
Nope.
I've had a lot of clients that had no idea what an RMD was, that they had to start taking out some money. It used to be 72, now it's 73. The law changes here, but you have to start taking out some money at some point.
Yep.
And like, wait, I do? Yes, you have to start taking this money out. I had another client that I'm still working with who is retired, just retired a few years ago. And I said, well, what are you doing with your investment accounts? He said, oh, well, I have all my money in a money market. And I said, you have all of your money just sitting in a money market? It's like, yeah, and I take the money out whenever I want. I said, no. Yeah. You could set up something that you don't have to take all of the money. You could take half that money, put it into an annuity that will just pay you an income. And you're going to pay way less in fees and way less in and he's like, really? I said, yes, that's why they exist. That's why these products exist.
Yep.
Anyway, we'll have to talk about that at some point. As period income certain annuities is what those are called. At some point we'll get into that. Well, to wrap this up, again, this week it's just why don't more agents sell IULs? I'm looking at my notes. If anyone, it's what I'm looking at. Yeah. Next week we're going to use the Macho Guide about prospecting for IULs.
Yes, that's going to be something, because every week still when we meet, right, and new people join, they're just like, I got this 57-year-old person, and I think they'll be good for the IUL. And I wanted to know what's the main parameter within an IUL. Doesn't really mean the 57-year-old is disqualified, right?
Sure.
But do they have at least 10 or more years to work?
Right. That is so key with an IUL. It's why, right, for me, and it depends on so many different factors. We could go on for 2 hours about this.
Yeah, of course.
For me, typically 52 to 57 is when we're not talking about an IUL anymore and we're talking about rolling over.
Typically, but that's only maybe for, haven't you really only seen that, Dom, for W-2 people?
Correct.
Because self-employed people that are up in their 50s,
yes,
they may make, I've seen it before. They may make 20, 30 grand a month.
Or I remember one of my very first IULs at my last firm. We only worked with educators at my last firm. I should say that. Was a deputy superintendent or district superintendent. And it started with a D. Who made roughly $300,000, a little over $300,000 a year. Wanted to start putting something extra away for retirement. Was 53, 54, and that was an IUL. That was a perfect IUL situation. I haven't, we broke it down. There was about $1,500 in income each month between him and his spouse that they could start, pulling together and putting towards something. And an IUL was the right decision. Yeah. So they were on that cusp, right? Of 50, from 52 to 57. That's when things start to get murky. Anyway, we're going to talk about this a lot more next week. I don't want to get too much into it. Yeah.
It's going to be great.
It is. It's going to be a lot of fun. Miss Carmen, I want to say thank to everybody who's watching, either whether you're watching live or recorded. And we do these every week around 4:30 Eastern. So you'll have to come watch us next time.
I'll say one more thing before we go on this episode of Why Don't More Agents Sell More IULs? I just want to leave this with just one more thing.
Sure.
You can. Join us. Join us on Tuesdays and check us out. We'll put the link.
It's right here. It's up on the screen right now.
Oh, okay, great. And then we'll put the when we make the post, we'll put the link for the training and whatever agent wants to.
Absolutely, we'll put the link to training in the description.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point of why we're doing this, so more agents can sell IULs and annuities and feel more comfortable about it, because we need more people in tax-free retirement accounts.
We do.
1 out of 3. This isn't going to cut it, right? More and more people need to save money through compound interest. So
they do. So if you want to get in touch with me,
yes,
you go to capitalabundance.com. If you want to get in touch with Carmen, you go to benefitstogo.net. You can always reach out to us on Facebook or however, but I want to thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.